When I went to Arlington Cemetery, it was raining, and I was reminded of it being many days to stay in a foxhole, the water up to your knees, and wondering how many boys of my age when I was a soldier were now in foxholes doing the same thing, eating and sleeping in the foxhole. When I went to the U.S. Congress, I kept telling myself, these are hard-headed politicians. You make your appeal, but make it short and make it an objective, dispassionate appeal. But it didn't come out that way. I did feel it was a little emotional.
How can America speak to Asia? I would say, America, speak from the depths of your own heart. Speak in the language of Jefferson. Speak with the wisdom of a Lincoln. Speak with the compassion of Roosevelt, with the vision of Kennedy and the ringing challenge of President Johnson, when he said, the peace that I seek is not a peace that means the absence of armed hostilities. For where men hunger and hate, there can be no peace. The peace I seek is a peace of conciliation, a conciliation of the communist states with their non-communist neighbors, between the rich nations and the poor, between the great and the small. This is the peace I seek. Can it come about? In all my heart, I think it can. We have far to go. We have far to journey. Addressed in these accents, America, Asia will listen to you. And confronted with these challenges, Asia will respond. But the most painful feeling that I have is that which I felt when I talked to my former comrades in the war. For they scoffed at our medals and laughed at our scars. Especially one particular scar that I bear with pride. With as much pride as any decoration that has been granted me. A scar from a wound I received in attempting to save the life of an American comrade. Where is your American friend now, they asked me. He is dead, and with him have died all our dreams. Yes, he was my American comrade. And he was a blood brother, for he fought in my native land. We were surrounded, as often we were. We had to break out. And in breaking out, I saw him fall and try to crawl to safety. I returned to him only to fall beside him, the blood of Filipino and American commingling in Philippine soil. As I cradled him in my arms towards the foxhole, he said, I die, but go tell them back home, you who will live, tell them that I die with only one regret, and that is that America has failed us. And the Filipino that I was, as if I could retrieve him with my words from the hands of death, answered him with confidence. As I said, no, America does not forget, and America will not fail. Many years have passed since then.
We can understand the question.
The question was, is it correct that we have demanded $2 billion in the rent? The answer is no. We haven't quoted any figure. What we have asked is this. We want a study. What is it that is necessary in order that we can perform our job? You and I know that if the Philippines is attacked, the United States is not necessarily bound to immediately react because the provision of the Mutual Defense Pact is that you will immediately take steps as is necessary to meet the contingency in accordance with your constitutional processes. What does that mean? That means that you go to the Senate and the House of Representatives. What does that mean? That means delay while we are dying there.
Most of our allies in Europe, concerned about resisting communism, give the U.S. free bases and even share the cost. Why shouldn't we expect the same kind of cooperation from the Philippines instead of demands for more rent?
Well, for one thing, you haven't exactly paid for what we lost in the last war. If we must make an accounting, 75% of our cities were devastated in the last war. We lost 1 million men. Shall I quote you the statements of Roosevelt and MacArthur that every Carabao will be paid for? Shall I tell you that the veterans who were inducted into the USAF, the United States Armed Forces of the Far East, your armed forces, were paid only 1/2 the salary of your soldiers? Shall I tell you that we almost turned communists because you refused to recognize us? Shall I tell you that I had a difficult time stopping my guerrillas, 25,000 of them from joining the communists, because precisely you sort of forgot that we had done the fighting for you, you know, and we were parts of your armed forces. But in fairness to the American Congress, when we came here and we called attention to the fact that we had been abandoned and forgotten, they themselves, in outrage, immediately passed a law recognizing the services of the Filipino and reinstating them as parts of the United States Armed Forces in the Far East, including back pay and benefits.
Two issues in the Philippine election campaign recently made front-page news, not just in the Philippines, but around the world. Both raised questions that only Ferdinand Marcos himself can fully answer. There have been repeated reports in this country by correspondents who say that your bodyguards have had to support you, quite literally, sometimes almost carry you, that you have been taken backstage and that apparently you've been getting shots of some kind or another, or dialysis of some kind or another.
Is stupid.
Your health has been very much an issue, sir. I wonder if you would react
Those
to that.
are fabricated. I have never been supported by my guard. I have a limp on the left knee where I was wounded in Bataan by shrapnel. And occasionally when I'm tired, I do limp a little, but I don't need any support. And I am proud of that wound. I am proud that occasionally I must limp, but certainly being carried by my bodyguards is not part of it. I am carried by the crowd when I come into a rally as a mark of triumph. It's a part of the routine. And those foreign correspondents who report that I go in for a shot, now, I wish they could come with me so that they can see that I have to change my underwear, my shirt, undershirt, because I have caught a cold speaking in the rain. And this irritating repetition of these legends and fables about my health is certainly getting to be very boring.
Mr. President, you mentioned a moment ago having received a shrapnel wound at Bataan, and that this old war wound sometimes comes back to trouble you. That, of course, raises another issue that has been very much here in the American press over the last couple of weeks, both in the New York Times and in the Washington Post. Both of them have done extensive articles which suggest that your claims and the claims of your supporters that you are so highly decorated are fabricated claims.
I don't
that
think...
in point of
I don't think that that is the story. It's a story about my guerrilla group. It's not about the medals. Even here, when the case of libel was filed, the publisher here did not question those medals. It's only you, Americans, who question it. I am not going to degrade myself by talking about those medals. If the American government wants them back, they can have them back. It's a good thing that we did not burn them. It's a good thing that we did not burn them at the end of the war, when you refused to give us our back salaries and refused to recognize all of us, and we were not entitled to education benefits, we were not entitled to medical benefits. But I was one of those who stopped our people from turning communist, especially the veterans, because we did not fight for communism, we fought for freedom. Now I wonder whether we also fought for the Americans and the American flag, to which we had sworn when MacArthur inducted us into the USAFE. I have no regrets, however, about having fought in Bataan. I have no regrets about fighting beside American soldiers. I have no regrets about fighting under American officers. And probably if our country were ever to be attacked again, I would do the same thing. But I would certainly raise some questions about the conduct of the American government in relation to the veterans of the last war. I am certainly very disappointed.
Mr. President, the question is not raised about the courage of Filipinos who fought against the Japanese during the Second World War. But the question, as you know, and you know this is not something I'm making up, you have seen those newspaper articles yourself and you have seen some of the documents, suggests that the guerrilla group that you claim to have led, in fact, either did not exist at all or was just a tiny group that played no major role.
Then why is it recognized by the intelligence officer of General MacArthur in a paper which is certified too by the head of the archives of the United States? Now look, I don't want to talk about this anymore. If you do, I'm going to walk out.
The Congressional Gold Medal is one of our oldest traditions here in the Capitol. It is the highest civilian honor that this body can bestow. Today, pursuant to S. 1555, we award this medal to the Filipino veterans of World War II.
In return for their valor and sacrifice, the American government promised them citizenship and the benefits entitled to all veterans. In 1946, however, Congress sadly, shamefully, reneged on this promise and refused to grant these veterans the citizenship and benefits they earned. Their service was practically erased from American records. But even in the face of such adversity, these veterans never gave up. They organized and fought for what they had earned. Their story of struggle and perseverance has touched so many of us in Washington, and it's why so many of us fought so hard to award the Filipino veterans of World War II the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian honor Congress bestows.
It is my pleasure to invite up to the stage 6 veterans and next of kin who will accept the medal on behalf of all Filipino veterans of World War II.
Many have passed away, waiting for 75 years for this time to come. I am Celestino Almeida, a 100-year-old veteran of World War II. After the war, thousands of us felt underappreciated and unrecognized for fighting for our country. Thank you all, and God bless America.
And time should have muted the tone of confidence, and the tyranny of circumstance should have eroded this memory. But today, I still say, as I have said to my people, no, America is just. America does not forget. America will not fail us. Thank you.